Hey guys, I'm absolutely screwed for my exam, which is in 2 weeks' time, and I was just doing this mind map for revision and thought maybe I should record it. So hopefully this might be helpful. So yeah, enjoy. There are 3 types of phobias: specific, social, and agoraphobia. Specific phobias are when you're afraid of objects or situations. Social phobia is about social interaction, and agoraphobia is about the fear of going outside or being in a public space. Now, phobias can be explained by the behaviors theory by Maurer, who made the two-process model that phobias are obtained by classical conditioning and maintained by operant conditioning. Watson and Rayner support this, but obviously it has ethical issues. Donado suggests that not everybody who gets bitten by a dog develops a phobia, so the two-process model can't apply in every situation. Another weakness is that it doesn't explain why we are afraid of things that we haven't encountered before, like snakes or spiders. Seligman suggests that these are ancient fears, which is due to biological preparedness. Another weakness is that the cognitive aspects are not considered, such as in agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is more complicated because there are some cases where people with agoraphobia can go out, but only with someone that they trust very much. So it might not be about avoiding the scary things that are outside, but rather staying at home because that is where safety is. And if safety is with someone that you trust, then you can go out with them because they're safe. So specific and social are the ones that can really be explained. Another weakness is that the psychodynamic approach might explain phobias better. For example, none of us have experienced zombies, but there are some people with the phobia of zombies. This can be explained by displacement. So our fear of death could cause anxiety, and this could be displaced onto zombies, and so we have a fear of zombies. But a good thing is that we have flooding and systematic desensitization that we're going to talk about, which is application. And this is good because it provides treatment, and this is a positive thing. So yeah, because systematic desensitization and flooding both were suggested by Wolf. So for this, we first learn relaxation techniques, then the patient makes a hierarchy, starting from a fear rating of lower and then all the way up to the scariest thing ever, which is usually the stimulus itself. And yeah, you work your way up, and this depends on the patient. So if they wanted to repeat a step or go backwards, that would be completely fine. So the stimulus for each level could be in vivo or in vitro. In vivo means in person, and in vitro means imagining it. I started writing Lang, but I found a better study by Gilroy that has double evaluative points. They studied 42 patients who did 45-minute sessions of systematic desensitization versus a control who only did relaxation techniques. And looking at 3 months and 33 months as a follow-up, they found that the systematic desensitization group did much better. So there are long-term effects, which is good. So compared to flooding, systematic desensitization is a lot more time-consuming, and it deals with the effects rather than the actual cause of that phobia. So it's like giving paracetamol to someone who has a fever. It helps deal with the headache, but doesn't actually cure the fever. So let's look at flooding. The whole point is reaching reciprocal inhibition, which is the idea that you can't feel extreme anxiety and be calm at the same time. So once you face your fear directly, which is flooding, you eventually get exhausted from feeling such intense anxiety, which leads to extinction, because eventually you feel calm around the stimulus once that fear subsides. Obviously, this would need informed consent because it's very dangerous and scary, and a lot of people tend to drop out. Wolf drove around a girl who had an extreme phobia of cars for 4 hours, and even though her fear reached hysterical heights, eventually her phobia disappeared. Obviously, this is really unethical and it's not suitable for everyone, including older people and people with learning disabilities. Therefore, it is a weakness. But it's very cost effective because you only need to do 1 session. But a weakness is that it can't deal with the social phobias and agoraphobia because of the cognitive and emotional elements. And we discussed this earlier. Yippee! We're on to depression now. We have Beck's cognitive triad and Ellis's ABC model. There's an activating event, the belief, and the consequent. If the belief is irrational, then that's good. If it's irrational, it could lead to depression. The treatment Ellis made was rational emotional behavioral therapy and includes dispute, the effect of it, and how it makes you feel. It should be happy. So the dispute is when the therapist talks with the patient and ask them to reconsider their belief, which was irrational, and make it rational by using homework. And the homework was proof for the dispute. And then when you were done, you'd see the effect of it, which was that you were happier. And the feeling is that you're happy. I don't actually know. This guy is a big waffler. Like, why would you base your entire reasoning for depression the first 6 letters of the alphabet? Let's talk about why irrational thinking occurs. This is due to masturbatory thinking. Bro, my psychology teacher actually spelled this wrong on a test. First of all, you must be approved by everyone you love. Secondly, you must do well, otherwise you're worthless. Number 3, the world must give you happiness, otherwise you will die. And if you don't die, let's look at Beck's negative triad, which is views about the self, the future, and the world. And these are caused by negative schemas, which are caused by your childhood experiences, such as parental rejection, peer rejection, and teacher criticism. Now this can all lead to having a negative cognitive bias. I don't know why he said it like that. Anyway, so this can lead to a negative view of the self, the world, and the future. This is called generalizing. And cognitive bias can also lead to hypersensitivity. Beck's cognitive theory is pretty similar to Ellis's one, except for this one doesn't use the framework of ABC, but rather more of the patient as scientist approach. The patient would find evidence to suggest that their negative biases were wrong. Guys, I'm so sorry, but I forgot to mention for Ellis there are 3 types of dispute. First being logical dispute, second empirical, and lastly pragmatic, which is whether it makes sense, whether there's evidence for it, or whether it's helpful respectively. I have no idea what I was doing here. But oh yeah, there's March et al, which you can make as a positive or a negative. Bro guys, I'm actually so done with this right now. Just read what I'm writing. Or like use your brain to remember. I'm so done. I'm so done, guys. Anyway, so it's not suitable for everyone. So that includes people with intellectual disabilities, and they might have a hard time trying to figure out what their cognitive processes are. Another thing is that relapse is actually quite high according to Ali et al. After stopping CBT, they found that 42% of patients relapse within the first 6 months and 56% relapse within 12 months. Which is not very effective, is it? Another bad thing is that it might not just be what the client wants. They might want meds for a quick solution, or they might want to talk about their trauma. Rosenweig, or I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing these. So Rosenweig suggested that it's the parent-therapist relationship that helps depression rather than actual CBT. Because when you're depressed, it might be nice to have someone that wants to focus on you and cares about you and it's their job to help you. And that itself, rather than the actual going through the dispute and everything and all that silly model. Guys, I have something against this model. I'm sorry. It's just really annoying and silly. But yeah, that's an evaluative point. So yeah, we've covered half of this topic already, which is really good. And now we're just gonna stare outside and look at the grass in silence. Unfortunately, 2 more topics to go through. Definitions of abnormality. I'm really hungry. Being statistical in frequency, and if you do maths, this is amazing because it's a normal distribution. Anything more than 2 standard deviations, or is it 2 or 3? Fact check this with ChatGPT, and it's 2.5% on each side. Jehoda. We take like 5 whole minutes to try and remember all of these. Visualization, self-esteem, resistance to stress, environmental mastery, an accurate perception of reality. Fact check this one, and it was autonomy. Social norms. If you deviate from the social norms that is going around in the place that you live in, then that would be defined as abnormal. Fourth is failure to function adequately. I don't know if I spelled that properly, but I could not care less right now. Is maladaptive behavior, observer discomfort, unpredictability, distress, and lastly, irrationality. The bad thing about it is that rare abilities such as high IQ would be seen as abnormal. But a good thing is that it helps you diagnose stuff like intellectual disability disorder. Witchen et al. Said that 8.2% of Europe's population really suffers from mental illness, which is actually crazy. I knew it was quite high, but I didn't think that there was actual evidence for it. Looking at social norms, the thing is that there isn't any Western bias. People that are categorized as abnormal aren't categorized as abnormal by a diagnostic system that was made by... I found this photo in the textbook. Guys, I'm so tired of this. How are people still revising this? Anyway, so yeah. Oh yeah, can you believe that these two were actual signs of mental illnesses back then? Like, who made this stuff? This is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And that's literally because of deviation from social norms. You know, sometimes we need some waffle to allow us to have a brain break. Because you're surrounded by so much intense information that you need to filter things out yourself rather than everything given to you that's packed with information that you need to know. Actually, we're gonna move on to Jehoda. It's good because it's positive. It's also bad because it's positive. It's too positive. It's actually not very realistic for everyone to have all of these ticked off. Me? Having an accurate perception of reality? I don't think so. I'm going insane, guys. Actually, that wasn't very sensitive. You know what? I think we're too tired to care right now. Failure to function adequately. So this is bad. This is basically just the opposite of Jehoda, you know. So it is too negative. It focuses on things that you can't do, which is not very nice. Patients would not like that. Another weakness is that it doesn't explain people who have depression but can still function adequately. They still struggle, but they can also function adequately. And they need help too. Another weakness is that it could be too subjective according to whoever's diagnosing you. For example, observer discomfort. One therapist might be deeply disturbed by your behavior, while the other one might not be. So yes, well done. We have one more topic to go, guys, and that is OCD. There are 3 explanations, and this is all biological. So for brain structure, let's look at this like a sieve. Usually, the orbitofrontal cortex takes the worry and sends it to the caudate nucleus. Now, the caudate nucleus should usually filter out a lot of these worries and only leave the ones that would genuinely affect your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And then it would drip down and go to the thalamus, and then the thalamus would go and tell the orbitofrontal cortex how to deal with that stressor. Now, the thing is, for people with OCD, the caudate nucleus does not do a very good job at filtering all of this worry, and instead, you get all of the worry that goes through all of the caudate nucleus, and all of it goes into the thalamus, and now the thalamus goes back to the orbitofrontal cortex, and this is called the worry circuit, where your brain doesn't filter out enough of your worry or like minor stress, and so it will affect you. So minor things will affect you in the same way as major things would. The second explanation is having increased dopamine and not enough serotonin. I can't say this. Basically, they injected dopamine into rats and they displayed stereotypical OCD behavior like cleaning themselves excessively and signs of anxiety. But a bad thing about this is that it's extrapolation. Are you a rat? Hopefully your answer is no, so that means that does not apply to you or any other humans. Also, if you want to learn Piglet, then go ahead. The third explanation is genetic. We got the SERT gene and the COM gene, guys. Okay, I lied here. The SERT gene is for dopamine and the COM gene is related to serotonin. So having abnormal versions of these genes would cause OCD. A strength of this explanation is that Nestat found that people were 5 times more likely to have OCD if they had relatives who had OCD. And Billett found that monozygotic twins were 2 times more likely to have OCD. But the weakness of this is that the concordance rate is not 100%. So there must be some part of the environment that could be affecting this. This is all an example of biological determinism, and the behaviorist approach is also environmental determinism, and it's bad because it doesn't look at free will. Oh yeah, for the brain structure part, I forgot to mention that Coma et al. Found that serotonin plays a role in the OFC function. We can use selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors to help with OCD. I'm not going to go through over it because it's boring. So a strength for this is that Sumo et al. Found that after reviewing 17 studies, 70% of participants were able to reduce their symptoms using SSRIs, while the other 30% had used alternative drug therapy. The thing is, not 100% of people have reduced symptoms, which means SSRIs aren't 100% effective, which is bad. Another bad thing is that Minor found that relapse happens after only a few weeks without SSRIs, which means that this isn't a very good long-term thing. But it's good because it helps people in short term. This might be good for the patient, or it could be good for the economy. Basically, people with OCD can manage the symptoms better using SSRIs, and they can go to work and pay taxes, which is good. Well, not for us, but for the government, you know. And that's it. And that's all of psychopathology. I'm sorry for losing it halfway through, or several times. But yeah, the editing in this is absolutely awful, and I'm really sorry. But I'm just posting this just because I made this for myself, if that makes sense. But yeah, well done. Thank you so much for sticking by if you actually made it till the end. And yeah. Bye! Good luck with your studies. Good luck with your A-levels. You're gonna ace it. I'm gonna go cry in a hole now. Bye!